All
How
right.
you doing, man?
I'm good. The background looks great there.
Oh, thank you very much, man. Thank you very much. It's been a while, man. I remember the last time I spoke with you. I think it was some month ago on my radio show.
That's good to hear.
Very well. Talking about Boston Celtics, what's going on right now with Boston Celtics?
Everything's been going crazy for them. I mean, they just lost Jalen Brown for the season because of
Yeah.
wrist surgery. So they, if they were going to have a chance to actually fulfill their potential in the playoffs, they needed everybody to be fully healthy
Very
and
well.
playing their absolute best. It's been that way every year for them, and it's never happened. And it didn't happen again this year, and it's so frustrating as just someone objectively wanting to see what this team could become
Very
because it's
well.
interesting and they just never get a chance to fully do it. So, most of the time in the NBA, the teams that make the finals are just the teams that stay the healthiest. And that's been really killing the Celtics every single year. And yeah, that's not going to happen for them this year. And I mean, we know they're not going to beat the Nets, even if they do manage to make it to the playoffs. I mean, they're not even the favorites against Washington in the play-in game tomorrow that even determines whether they get the seventh seed and can face the Nets.
So don't you think the fact that they are not the favorites put them in a comfortable situation? Of course, not Jalen Brown, but they've got Marcus Smart. I think Kemba Walker is also in the frame. Don't you think that will kind of take the pressure off them and them just trying to do their own thing?
Yeah, I mean, Kemba Walker's been playing so well lately that I think that just takes a lot of pressure off of like Jason Tatum, who's had to really carry the team on his back this year.
Okay.
And so Kemba Walker being the scorer that he can be again, being fully healthy pretty much, that changes the dynamic for this team because this team for most of the season was playing with basically two all-stars and Brown and Tatum running the offense. And then
Okay.
everybody else is trying to fit in around that. But it's too bad that Jalen got hurt because Walker is playing this way, because Evan Fournier is finally healthy and finally shooting the ball well. So, they actually could have been a dramatically different team in the playoffs, but just with, Jalen Brown is too good. If they lost Evan Fournier, for instance, kind of Sullivan Hayward, they're still really good last year and they almost made the NBA finals. But, Jalen Brown is just too central to who they are. He's too impactful in just so many different ways. They just can't recover from that.
It's so sad Jalen won't be in this one. Quickly, let's talk about the most valuable player now, Jared. Let's talk about how difficult or how interesting it is right now. I was checking the list for crying out loud, Jared. I mean, every player in that list deserves to win the MVP. So how have you been impressed with a certain Joel Embiid performance with the Philadelphia 76ers this season? Let's start with Joel quickly. I know you've got little time here with me.
Yeah, I mean, Joel Embiid has been one of my favorite players to come into the NBA for a long time. When he got drafted, I said he could be the new Akeem Olajuwon. Um, Not just because he's a center from Africa, but because I think like he could be that level of dominant center that kind of changes the way the game is played, and we're seeing it. It's taken him a couple years to kind of find that level, and he's finally gotten there. They put the team around him that can really take advantage of it. And I mean, you just see it this year. He's become the most unstoppable player in the NBA. There's maybe a couple guys that are probably overall playing better than he is offensively, but as far as trying to stop somebody, there's nobody else on his level right now. And it's been amazing to see because he's done something that we just didn't really know if it could be done again, which is to dominate basketball from down in the post the way that they did in the 90s, the way that they did when Akeem was the
Yeah.
best player at that position. And he's been able to make that happen even at a time where the NBA has changed the rules to make it really more ideal for you to be a scorer out on the
Yeah,
perimeter, to
very
be
well.
a James Harden or a Steph Curry or something like that. The game is just the way the rules are shaped, that being a player playing out of the post is like the hardest way to actually be a great scorer and
Sure.
distributor. And I think
Sure.
that's a real testament to how great he is that he's making that work anyway.
Okay, we here in Nigeria and Africa most especially want to see Joao. He hails from Cameroon, so it's going to be nice seeing Joel Embiid clinching the MVP. But it's not going to be very easy because that man, the Joker, they call him Nikola Jokic, is in the frame. What do you have to say about the Joker?
Oh well, if there's anybody that I enjoy watching more than Embiid, it's probably the Joker, because I was someone that always loved passing first and foremost. That was passing and defense are the two things I always loved growing up and watching the game. And while Joel's the one doing the defense, Jokic is not that good of a defender. He passes in a way that no one's ever done before. I mean, nobody has done it at this level. Arvydas Sabonis, who we didn't really get to see play in the NBA when he was at his best, he was probably the only other player. And Bill Walton was obviously at that level. Those are probably the two guys I can think of that could do what Jokic does at the center position. But Jokic is doing it at an even higher level than we've seen, where it's really interesting the way he plays, where he just kind of like, he gets the ball and he just tries to set up a little screen action. And if he doesn't get it the way he wants it, they just repeat it over and over and over again. It's kind of similar to the way that Al Horford was playing when he was still in his prime a few years back. They're actually kind of similar in that way. But obviously Jokic is just like, he's able to shoot it in every way he possibly imaginable. And he just kind of gets through people over and over.
Yeah, that's how easy it has actually been for Jokic. I remember last season too, he was tipped to go on and win the MVP award. But this season is still in the frame too. Well, I don't know if he's gonna be given, but I believe Jokic also deserved that one. Okay, let's talk about King LeBron James for the Lakers. Championship winner last season. This season is not really smooth for them. Can LeBron claim the regular season MVP this year ahead of other players?
No. I mean, he's only played like half the season. And most years, how many games you've played is a huge factor, or how many minutes you've played. But this year, it's a massive factor because so few players have actually been healthy the entire year. So no, LeBron definitely does not belong in the MVP conversation just because of his availability. I think the way that he's played for most of the year, at least when he was healthy, he probably wouldn't have gotten to the top of the conversation, but he could have definitely been towards the top 5 or so. Probably would have been All NBA. He still might make the All NBA team, although I just think he's missed too many games that he shouldn't qualify because of that. Because there's just so many players that have been amazing this year and have only missed a couple games. So, but that LeBron James is the great litmus test to awards, whether or not they should be in the regular season or for the entire season. Because if you gave awards out after the season was over, after the finals were done, and you base it off of both the regular season and the playoff run, LeBron James would have won like 10 MVPs. He's the MVP every single year. We always, there's always that discussion of who's the best player in the league at the end of the regular season, whether it's Giannis or all these guys. And then at the end of the finals, LeBron is the one destroying everybody every single time over and over.
Well, let's see how that one unfolds. Okay, let's talk about Steph Curry, because you've got little time here, so I want to make it as quick as possible. Steph Curry has been absolutely sensational, Jared. He has been smashing records over records. And how Steph, from being, just that player that is just coming back from injury and still struggling to be an MVP candidate, how did that happen within a short period?
That's a good question. I think it's just that he's healthy, and when he's healthy, he's one of the best ever. He just wasn't healthy. He got a chance to actually have an offseason to recover. And I think the other thing is that he has, over the years, become stronger and better at driving to the rim and finishing. And we saw this year, he was getting to the free throw line, I think, more than almost everybody, any other guard in the league. He was getting to the line like 6 or 7 times a game, which is amazing for somebody whose game has always been completely based on like finesse and shooting and stuff like that. So him just continuing to toughen up. And I think the way he moves and gets into his shots, it almost seems like it's a little bit better than when he was in his MVP years a couple of years ago. I don't know if that's possible, but there's always been throughout the last couple of years, players are continuing to shoot from like 30 feet out, more and more and more. And it's something that he really brought to the league. But now with him, he's just like kind of shooting from half court when he feels like it. It's insane. They're gonna have to change the way that the game is, like the shape of the court at this rate, the way that he's been doing things.
Yeah, of course. I had someone telling me that, if these guys find it easy getting threes, maybe we have to do 4-pointer then. maybe that would actually work. Okay, quickly, let's talk about Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis still have a big statement to make. I mean, he's been chipping individual awards, but the championship is what fans want him to win. And Milwaukee Bucks right now, having Drew Holiday this season, did you think, Milwaukee Bucks will give us a different playoff, or it's just going to be a copy and paste of what we've seen for the past couple of seasons?
I think that this trade worked, the Drew Holiday trade. They wanted to get him in there to transform the way that they could defend. Because last year they lost in the playoffs. The main reason probably was, I mean, one, Giannis just wasn't able to handle a great defensive team that knew how to scheme against him.
Yeah.
But two, their defensive scheme works great in the regular season when you're playing a different team every single night. But when you're playing against the best coach in the NBA, and Eric Spoelstra, he's able to figure out how to beat you over the course of a series. And they needed to become more dynamic. They needed to be able to change up the way that they defend instead of just doing the same thing that works over and over. Because in the playoffs, no matter how good you are at something, the opponent, if they're good, will be able to figure out how to take it away and force you to adapt. So Drew Holiday finally made them adaptable on defense. He just finally gave them that guy that could defend any type of player, and the guy that allows them to do kind of every different type of scheme that they could possibly do. And they weren't good at it at the beginning of the year, but as the season has gone on, we've seen them really figure it out. So now they can switch when they need to. If they're facing a team with a great rim driver, they can have the big man kind of sit back a little so he can protect the rim. They're able to do all of it now, and that's why, you know, Milwaukee actually might be the best team in the NBA.
Okay. Let me just ask you about Chris Paul. So I'm going to list all of those 5 or 6 guys, then you pick one. Chris Paul, every teams he goes to, he used to improve those teams. You know, you talk about OKC, and now he's with the Phoenix, and he has actually improved that team. With due respect to the light of Devin Booker, who is also having a remarkable season. You think Chris Paul has what it takes to get the MVP?
Like the regular season MVP?
Yeah,
no, I don't think he'll get it. He's been amazing this year.
Okay.
He's probably been I mean, in a way, you could argue he was the most valuable player in that he came to the Suns and he immediately turned them in from barely a playoff team to the best, you know, basically the best record in the NBA. So the improvement that they've made is probably the biggest in the league, and he's the very obvious reason for that. I just think that his individual output is just not strong enough to be able to beat the resume that you know, that Jokic has. I mean, Jokic, the stats that he's put up this year are just some of the best that we've seen in like decades, really are kind of unlike anything we've ever seen. And so considering that the Nuggets are almost as good as the Suns are, especially when Jamal Murray got hurt and they continued to win even without him, that really probably bolstered Jokic's resume. So I would really love to see Chris Paul win an MVP. He's been one of my favorite players ever. And it's unfortunate he's never gotten that recognition, and this is probably the year he deserved it. I just don't think he is, you know, I don't think he's scoring or assisting quite enough for him to actually be able to win MVP in this season.
All right. So Julius Randle, Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, Antetokounmpo, Luka Doncic, and Steph Curry, James Harden. Which of these guys are you going with? Jared, just give me your own MVP or potential MVP nominee.
I would vote for Jokic. I think my top 3 would be Jokic, Embiid, and Giannis. Those are, I think those guys are kind of clearly in their own tier this year.
Steph fans will be out right now.
I forgot about Steph there for a second. Oh man, you can't not have Steph. Yeah, you know, Steph should be number 2. I would probably I'll knock down Embiid because of the games missed. That's what's so crazy about MVP this year. It's like those 3 guys are obviously the top 3. And then you're right. What about Steph? Steph had one of the most ridiculous individual seasons we've seen. And that Golden State team is so bad, and they're still in the playoffs because of him.
Steph Curry. So it has to be Steph, you know, doing well for the Warriors. Okay, quickly, let's talk about the playing matchup right now. Tomorrow, Tuesday, we're going to be seeing Lakers take on the Golden State Warriors. This is not a final. This is not an NBA final. This is a playing tournament. And a victory for any of these teams will seal the 7th spot. Who is likely to get this one?
You know, the Lakers should be the obvious favorites, but LeBron and AD just haven't been consistently healthy. That it's a little bit up for grabs. And obviously, you know, Steph could legitimately drop 50 points.
Because it's been against LeBron.
Yeah, because Lakers have Wes Matthews and Dennis Schroeder are probably the main guys that will guard him, and maybe Alex Caruso will guard him. Those guys are really good defenders, but they're not the kind of guys that are necessarily going to like completely take Steph out of his game. So, it's very possible that Steph just goes off for 50 points, and that's still not enough. I mean, we've seen that over and over. That's still not enough a lot of the time. So I do expect the Lakers to win. I do expect LeBron and AD are going to just play out of their minds, because we know that those guys just play at a completely different level in the playoffs. And we've seen this year, they've been really treating the regular season like it's just something they have to get through so they can play in the postseason.
Yeah, I think, with Steph form right now, the only player to guard Steph is Steph himself. So, but let's see how that will unfold. I believe JSW will be fired up, and for the fact that Steph is facing off against LeBron, so he would also want to make a statement in that particular one. Okay, let's talk about championship favorite, the Brooklyn Nets, and they have all three guys fit for this one. Should oppositions be scared right now?
They should be the best team in the league if they're all healthy, right? I mean, we've seen how they what did they finish, like a game out of first place, and that was with Harden, Irving, and Durant playing, I think, 9 games together the entire season.
9 games.
That's so remarkable. I mean, that's just so insanely incredible. And frankly, all three of those guys were playing at like MVP levels throughout the season. It was just rare you got to see them together. So I expect that they're going to be the most dangerous team. They've gotten really good play from their role players. Steve Nash, I think, has done a great job as a rookie coach. Yep. They have a really great coaching staff too, which will really help them really manage these playoff series. I think that's where things they're going to have a huge advantage there, and just having Mike D'Antoni and Jacques Vaughn, who's an experienced head coach as well. That's a huge part of winning playoff series, is being able to make the adjustments, being able to tinker with lineups to kind of find those little edges in the middle of the game as you get deeper into the series. And they have the coaching staff that's really equipped to pull that off. So I think the Nets should be the favorites to win the title.
Okay, Jared, let's talk about this quickly. I was listening to Max Kellerman. He was talking about James Harden being the most important player for Brooklyn Nets. And personally, as much as everybody go against Max for making such statements, I think I subscribe to what Max said, based on the fact that, looking at games the Nets have won with only James, without these two guys, without Kyrie and Kevin Durant, they have won more games with only James. So, I mean, don't you think James Harden is the most important player for the Nets right now?
No, it's Kevin Durant. I mean, KD's the best wing in the NBA when he wants to be, when he's fully healthy. Stats like that, it's a small enough even one season is a small enough sample size that it could just be that they were playing teams that weren't as good those nights. I haven't looked at the numbers, so I don't really know the context, but I think it's been pretty apparent throughout Kevin Durant's career that when he gets to the playoffs, his defense and his playmaking get to another level. And we're not going to see Harden. We're not going to see Harden and Kyrie make that kind of defensive impact. They're going to be incredible scorers. They're going to be great playmakers. But when Durant when he has that vision and he can see everything on the court, and even if you double team him, he's still going to be able to find an open shooter with ease. If he's really protecting the rim.
Durant is one player that you never know when he's going to get injured.
That one injury at the end of the finals a couple of years ago, but other than that, I can't really remember him, being hurt or even really playing hurt. He's pretty reliable. And this year, they've done a really good job of managing his load management so that he doesn't get hurt. And I think that's all with an eye towards him playing 40 minutes a game in the playoffs.
Okay, let's talk about the Milwaukee Bucks, right? And you talk about them, also standing a chance to go out there and surprise everyone. They have a matchup against Miami Heat. You know what happened last season? They were beaten 4-1 in the series by Miami Heat. Could this be another, drama?
Yeah, it should go 7 games, because they're only the 6th seed, but the way that they've been playing for the last 2 months, basically, they've been playing like a top seed. They've been playing at the same level as Milwaukee. It's just they weren't healthy. COVID was a problem. They're back to where they should have been, but they're pretty much back to where they left off in the playoffs last year. And we plays at a higher level in the playoffs. He does it every single year. So I do think that's going to go the distance, and I have no idea who's going to win it. But I watched Miami a bunch in the past couple weeks, and I've been blown away with the way that they're playing.
Okay, let's talk about Utah Jazz quickly. I remember I spoke with the sideline reporter for Utah Jazz. I'm talking about Pundit Kenny. I spoke with her some time ago, and she talked about how she's excited about their form this season. And Utah went, I think they went about 14 games winning streak. Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, Jordan Clarkson, O'Neal, giving us sensational performances like this. Don't you think they've also got championship credentials with them right now?
Of course. I mean, they've been the best team out there from the start of the year, and they haven't really slowed down that much. You didn't even mention Joe Ingles, who's probably, I think should win Sixth Man of the Year. He's having one of the best shooting seasons we've ever seen, and he's a great playmaker too. So they have, I think, a big reason why they've been so great this year is because they have really great depth, and that depth matters a little bit less in the postseason when you're basically playing eight guys, maybe the ninth guy 5 minutes, 10 minutes here or there. But you look at their roster in that kind of core rotation of those top eight guys, and everyone's really good there. And so I don't think they're one of those teams that the kind of regular season depth that they have becomes less valuable than in the postseason. And that means that they're going to be, they should be great. It really comes down to whether Rudy Gobert can be taken advantage of, because he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year again, most likely. But we do know that if a team can force him to defend out on the perimeter more, that is the rim. He no longer can block and defend, deter every single shot that you take at the rim. That's the only way you really have a chance against them, but it can be done. And it has been done in the past.
Okay, well, let's see how Utah Jazz will make use of this opportunity they have right now. Let's talk about the Clippers. We've got about 5-6 minutes left right now. Let's talk about the Clippers, Kawhi and PG. They're having a matchup against Dallas Mavericks. Look at don't see Dallas Mavericks. What's your take about this game?
What's so cool is this is another series that's a rematch from the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
And, remember that series last year, the Mavericks looked like they were potentially going to pull off the upset before Porzingis got hurt towards the end, and Doncic was putting them on his back.
Yeah,
they're better. They're a little bit better this year. I think just Doncic will be a smarter player in his, it's going to be a second playoffs, I think. So he's going to be a lot better. But the thing is, the Clippers are just so much better this year. I mean, they're so much better this year. They had, I think, the second best 3-point shooting season in NBA history. Kawhi Leonard is still playing at his top of his game. Paul George was better this year than he was last year, and we'll see if that holds up in the playoffs, but I expect that it probably will. And they just have figured out how to make the roster fit around those guys better. So I would be shocked if the Mavericks upset them this time around.
Okay, let's see how that one unfolds, but I believe Kawhi and PG should be able to get the win for the Clippers this time. Okay, quickly, let's talk about the Sixers. Joel, Simmons, they're all having a remarkable season alongside, and Sixers are also one team to watch out for the chip, right?
Sure, yeah. I mean, Tobias Harris has been better this season, and I think that's also partly that the guys that they have around those three, their three best players, are just a way better fit with Seth Curry, Danny Green, Matisse Thybulle has improved this year. Shake Milton's continuing to play well. They have George Hill now, who's been a really good guard veteran on a lot of contending teams over the years. So they're just they're a deeper team. Last year they had no depth, and then obviously Embiid had to really carry the team on his back, and it was just too much to ask of him. This year they're a complete team. They have a coach that has proven what he can do in the postseason, obviously, although Doc Rivers has had his struggles in the postseason as well. So they're a team that can come into a playoff series and be in control, while it just hasn't really been that way in the past for them.
I mean, you have done so well. You have done so well, Jared. Thank you very much so far. I mean, I've really been enjoying your contribution on this Zoom chat. Okay, let me get your final matchup. Okay, two teams that should make the NBA Finals. Let me get what you think about that one.
Wow. Nets and Clippers. I'll go with those two teams.
What about Lakers?
It's a little. I think the Clippers are better than the Lakers. I mean, obviously they are when you look at their records, but even if the Lakers are at 100%, I'm going to go with the Clippers upsetting them this time around.
Wow, that means you have been so impressed with the Clippers' performance this season.
Absolutely.
And you're not foreseeing any surprise, Utah, Atlanta, come on, or Phoenix.
Oh, Atlanta. If Atlanta makes the finals, that will be the craziest thing I've ever seen. I mean, Utah and Phoenix have been so great throughout the season. I'm not one of those people that subscribes to the biggest stars or like a lot of people when they're picking these series,
Wow.
they say like, oh, you got to go with whoever has the biggest stars. I'm not that person. I just think that Kawhi and Paul George have proven to be scheme resistant would be the way I would put it, where no matter how you try to defend them, I do think that they are playing at a level where they're going to be able to find a way around it. And I don't think those other teams are going to be able to get over that hump in the same way. And those guys just have the experience that like Denver and Phoenix's key guys don't have as much. Obviously, not including Chris Paul, who's done it 1,000 times. But I don't know if Devin Booker is at the level yet where he's going to be able to get a team all the way to the finals. He's amazing. He's still early in that process.
Okay, so if Clippers face off with the Knights in the finals, who's going to win the finals?
I'm not going to pick against the Nets. They're too good. They have too much talent. Those are guys that they were kind of to a degree coasting through the regular season.
Did you see that play yesterday?
I didn't catch the game yesterday. No.
I saw that was the play of the season. I think it was from Blake Griffin.
Oh,
to Kevin
yeah,
Durant.
when Blake Griffin did the behind the back. Yeah, that was pretty amazing. Yeah, and that's what they're going to do in the playoffs. They're just going to be stampeding past everybody.
So it's more or less it's going to be like an all-star game for the Nets, right?
That's what they've been doing all year.
Have you been to Nigeria before I let you go?
No, I would love to. I was planning to go to Senegal before the pandemic happened, but that screwed up my plans. So hopefully I will get there. That's the main thing I want to see if I get there is just to see the new basketball league, which is just getting started this week, right?
Exactly. It started yesterday, and the Nigerian side Rivers Hoopers. The media officer is even watching right now. They were beaten by Patriots yesterday, and it was. I mean, I forgot about the fact that Rivers Hoopers were beaten. It's nice to see basketball, NBA supported Basketball Africa League in Africa. It was really massive, I must confess. It's good to see basketball back in Africa actively.
Yeah, and to have this league there, it just means that more good young players are going to be able to get exposed and get opportunities, and we're going to see even more players coming from Africa over to the NBA in the future. There's already been so many, but obviously there's so many more to still join there.
Okay, thank you very much.
That'd be great.
Thank you very much for joining me this evening. It's evening over here. It's also evening over there, right?
No, sun's still shining. We got a couple more hours left.
Always a great pleasure having you, Jared. Your contribution has been so massive. Thanks for joining once more.
Appreciate you.